What's up, my friends, and welcome back to part 2 of my Bron Dooku fanfiction. So last time we had just left Bron victorious over the Empire. Inspired by the rebels' actions on Jakku, Bron, who was in politics at the time, built and led an underground movement that was eventually successful in taking down 3 Star Destroyers that were stationed over Serenno. This action freed their world from the shadow of the Empire, and Bron became king of the planet. He succeeded in this mission with the aid of his uncle, Count Dooku. Bron had discovered a secret hangar underneath the Dooku homestead, housing a hidden supply of both Republic and Confederacy ships from the Clone Wars, including Vulture droids, battle droids, and Venator-class Star Destroyers. This is a truly fascinating concept in the Star Wars universe. Years after the Galactic Civil War, seeing Republic and Separatist ships return once again and work together instead of battling each other. The Venator-class Star Destroyers are even controlled by the droid technology, and it also means that Bron and his crew have one of the most unique and deadly fleets in the entire galaxy. Speaking of his crew, Bron has only close friends and allies to rely on. His personal crew are literally the only people he allows on his staff. In fact, he actually turns away volunteer soldiers. Some may think this is ridiculous, but after losing so many close friends on the day of the battle, Bron swore an oath to the people of Serenno that he would no longer let them fight and die for him. Instead, Bron relies solely on technology. Everything is controlled and run by droids. Battle droids, Vulture droids, droid control of Venator-class Star Destroyers, it's all under control. And when you think about it like that, who needs a crew? As for his personal human and humanoid crew, we don't need to go into tons of detail here, but as I said before, they are all close childhood friends that have stayed with him and formed the rebellion with him. His 2 best friends are a female and male character who are a couple, both having command of their own ship, as they are both cunning warriors and brilliant battle planners. Now, for the rest of the crew, they are skilled warriors as well, but each also has a unique trait, skill, or weapon. For instance, some use swords, some use staff-like weapons, others pistols. I'd like to see all kinds of weapon styles be introduced. And there's also one guy who uses alchemy-like skills, combining potions into bombs or elixirs. I'd even like to see someone with some form of magic skills be introduced. Bron also has an ambassador and advisor type character that acts as his assistant and informant, and it might please a lot of you to learn that Bron does have an apprentice as well. I'd like to make this a strong, young, brave female character like Ahsoka Tano, a highly talented, fierce student that Bron can pass down his future knowledge to as he continues to learn from the memory of his uncle, Count Dooku. But that's another story for another time. So, not all of the characters are here yet. I want to introduce some over time, because with every good story, you meet some along the way, and that is what our next chapter is about. So when we last left Bron on Serenno, the Empire had been driven away and his planet freed. So now Bron, as the new king, begins to assemble convoys to start exploring nearby territories for sacred land, temples, and artifacts that may need to be saved. And obviously, this means the people on the planets too. Over the next few months, Bron and his crew lead successful campaigns to many small moons and planets. They chase away remaining garrisons, blow wayward Star Destroyers out of the sky, and protect sacred and important lands from being destroyed. People quickly begin to take notice of this mystery fleet that seems to appear out of nowhere, chasing off the dogs of the Empire from homes and villages, and protecting their cultures. Bron's personal fleet consists of 1 Republic cruiser, which belongs to Bron, encased in 3 Venator-class Star Destroyers. The rest of the fleet is always kept hidden and issued very sparingly due to resources. But Bron is so cunning in his battles, almost like a young Thrawn, that he only needs small fleets to do his work. Little did they know, however, their next big battle would be defending their home planet from the Empire once again. Bron loves history. Aside from his people, he considers it to be the most important thing in his life and the lives of others. So he should have done well to remember that his own planet of Serenno is a huge source of historical information, with museums and even underground installations that house priceless artifacts collected by the House of Dooku. And not to mention, Serenno will always be a favorite stronghold of the Empire. As Bron and his crew prepare for departure one day, some of his crew catch a glimpse of a small avalanche from the sky on the horizon coming down the mountainside. Bron's intelligence radios in. A small but dangerous-looking armada is beginning to form on the borders of the city, just below the mountains. But who they are, none can tell yet. With haste, Bron begins to gather the rest of his team. His crew takes a few Republic assault ships, some Vulture droids, Tri-Fighters, a few hundred battle droids, and his personal ship, an ETA-class shuttle painted with a face and teeth. They stop a couple of miles from the armada and begin to inspect the situation. Before them stands a black mass. From what his people can tell, it seems to be made up of mostly AT-ATs, chicken walkers, about 1,000 stormtroopers, and a few TIE fighters. However, these men don't look entirely Imperial. Before the end of the Galactic Civil War, Palpatine created a brand new division among his ranks. They were called Death Veil Squadrons. You see, the Empire knew that it was about to go into hiding, but they didn't want to leave the galaxy void of their influence. Instead, what they did was section off huge divisions to accomplish literal kamikaze missions to different planets and locations around the galaxy. They were assigned to a specific system, ordered to go into battle, and if they should succeed, their leaders would be promised with the rank of general upon the Empire's return. And if they were to perish, at least they killed and destroyed as much as they could. All of the troops are expendable, of course, but their leaders were hand-picked. They were either mentally unfit, extremely violent, or pure dedicators of the Empire's cause. And for all, this was a dream come true. Set free by the Empire, and no longer under their supervision, these divisions became more like syndicates or gangs, being led by psychotic warlords, and their men were purely insane, believing all glory lies with dying for the Empire in battle. Divisions always consisted of Imperial walkers like AT-ATs and chicken walkers, always flanked by at least 1,000 stormtroopers and several TIE fighters. All of their armor was painted black, and stormtroopers would often replace their helmets with black face masks or wore war paint. Graffiti and costume design was encouraged, and most squadrons scared people away before they even fired a shot. The division now standing before Bron was no different, so Bron's group begins to assemble their forces for an imminent attack. The Dark Walkers and Black Stormtroopers slowly start their march toward the city. The ground shakes and trembles. Tribal screaming can be heard from the men riding atop the AT-ATs like giant animals. One of Bron's men turns to him. "They've come to take back Serenno," he says. "But who are they?" "What does it matter?" Bron swiftly replies. "They are the dogs and the devils of the Empire. We will treat them no differently." Suddenly, a great battle begins. The AT-ATs begin to fire, blowing pieces of buildings and structures apart. Battle droids clash with stormtroopers, and TIE fighters engage dogfights with Vulture droids. Chaos breaks out, with Bron's troop acting swiftly, each one using their specific skills to hold off a certain portion of the attack. As for Bron himself, he is no cowardly commander hiding behind his soldiers. He too is out on the battlefield, wielding his silver-bladed lightsaber, honing the Jedi skills of his uncle before him, a scene not witnessed on the battlefield since the Clone Wars. The walker drivers are particularly vicious. Their drivers are not the most skilled, but their bloodthirst and resolve leave no mercy in the battle. Most of the drivers in this division have peeled away the top hatch on the head and extended the controls so that they are sitting outside and above the cockpit. With the black armor and graffiti, they look more like giant beasts than machines. Most of the crew are also outside, clinging to the top, from the sides, swinging from ropes, firing blasters and throwing grenades down at hordes of stormtroopers and battle droids. Bron himself finally makes his way to a nearby AT-AT and swiftly climbs up the legs, under the belly, and onto the side of the machine. One by one, stormtroopers are blown off like rag dolls, either by the swing of his saber, deflected shots, or a good old-fashioned force push. As he begins to run down the neck, he suddenly realizes that the walker has stopped, and no driver can be seen above the cockpit. He deflects a few more shots and jumps down into the head. When Bron's feet touch down on the inside, his curiosity suddenly turns to shock as he finds the driver standing over the bodies of his dead crewmates. In fact, he had shot them himself. Both stand for a moment, stunned at the sight of each other, but as soon as Bron has time to wonder what's going on, the driver immediately fires on him. Bron is very easily able to evade these and quickly knocks the blaster out of his hand and the man onto the ground. As he lay there, Bron puts the lightsaber up to his neck. The man pleads with Bron to stop. "Wait, wait," he screams suddenly. Normally Bron wouldn't hesitate, but he had to admit to himself he wanted answers. As he listens to the man's very brief story, it turns out that the driver was planning an escape all along. He had been assigned this position, formerly working in intelligence, but after having his faith shaken in the Empire, he played his part and joined one of the Death Veil squadrons, unofficially escaping from the Empire. He saw this as a way out. It was his plan to kill off his crew, then take the AT-AT on a mini rampage before disappearing. Of course, being a swift and intelligent thinker, Bron takes him up on this offer, and soon they set out together, teaming up for an unexpected assault. The driver, mounted on his controls, swings the AT-AT around to face the other walkers. At the same time, Bron stands just behind him, deflecting blaster bolts while a small cape and hair blow in the wind. As it turns out, this particular driver was one of the best the Empire had, and with delight, Bron watched while this giant machine he was riding on skillfully strode through the battlefield, making precise hits, twisting and bending its body to catch every deadly angle he could. However, being the only rebel AT-AT on the field, they quickly draw attention, and soon the entire process turns into a survival mission, with Bron beating off stormtroopers that leap from one walker to another, some with flamethrowers or bombs strapped to them. Finally, Bron begins leaping from one walker to another himself, exploiting and destroying their weaknesses, crashing them down in a fiery rubble. He even uses the Force to tear an AT-AT's head clear off after slashing it with his saber. But soon, the smoke begins to clear, it quiets down, and they are the only ones left. Like a dying fire, the battlefield begins to flicker out, and Bron and his team assemble. Thankfully, not one of his people perished in battle, aside from his droid technologies. Bron still has his full crew. So now, the conversation passes to the rebellious walker driver. As they gather to listen, he explains his story, and along with his unique history, we also finally learn his real name, Keel Haas, and he was one of the most skilled drivers the Empire could offer. But now, he was homeless. However, being the humble king that Bron is, he immediately recognizes a place for Keel among his ranks. It would seem that either fate, the Force, or both had led him here, and he eagerly accepts Bron's offer to join his team. After all, this is exactly what he was looking for, to go out on his own, out on an adventure, to see the galaxy the way he wanted to see it, and continue to save it from the oppression of the Empire he once knew. Aside from this, he also has special skills that Bron needs. He's an excellent pilot, and also an ex-intelligence member for the Empire. Almost immediately, Keel begins to go to work, informing Bron and his crew that he has knowledge of where the next squad will strike, a planet not far from here that contains many sacred and spiritual sites, not to mention the innocent townspeople that live there. At once, Bron makes plans for another departure, but Keel suggests they plan to go somewhere else first. He plans on taking Bron to go see good friends of his that work over at a secret military installation on the planet Shimmer, because not only do they know the exact location the squad will be, but also all of the specs and battle details to be able to properly exploit all of their weaknesses. But that, my friends, is for part 3. Well, my friends, that's going to do it for part number 2 to our story. If you all like this, please remember to let me know. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, and don't be afraid to share all of your ideas for future stories. I'll be back very soon with part 3. But as always, until next we meet, take care, and stay in that galaxy far, far away.